The prisoner was halfway through his meal when a bold idea suddenly came to him. Seeing that the guard wasn't paying attention, he quietly rubbed his spoon back and forth against the bottom of his shoe until it was dirty. Then, acting like nothing had happened, he called the guard over and complained that his spoon was filthy and needed replacing. His teammate immediately caught on and made the same request. The two men looked so serious that the guard didn't suspect a thing and agreed. Yet it was precisely this oversight that would set the stage for one of the greatest prison breaks in history. When the two of them swaggered up to the counter, his partner deliberately distracted the guard with endless chatter. As the guard's attention was drawn away, the man quickly grabbed a new spoon, but in truth, he took two. Still, one spoon alone wouldn't be nearly enough to escape. He would need to craft a tool that actually worked. The next day, he traded 20 portions of dessert for some supplies from an old inmate who had connections. Once everything was ready, he snapped one spoon in half, then dismantled a pair of nail clippers. Using the file, he ground a coin into powder, then lit a match and fused the spoon handle to the file. Under the fire's heat, the coin powder quickly melted, and before long, he had successfully welded together a makeshift tool. Now it was time to test it. He had his buddy keep watch, ready to whistle if a guard came by. In his cell, there was an air vent he'd already started chiseling at with the nail clippers, but the effect had been poor. That's why he'd made the new tool. Sure enough, it worked far better. But just as he was making real progress, a guard suddenly started doing rounds. At that moment, his lookout had dozed off. Luckily, another inmate deliberately distracted the guard with conversation, which jolted the lookout awake. He tried to whistle, but realized he couldn't. Thinking fast, he grabbed a cup and clanged it against the bars. The man inside was alert enough to recognize the sound of approaching footsteps and hurriedly blocked the hole he'd been working on. He kept chatting casually with the guard, but all the while his attention was on the tool below. If the guard noticed, the consequences would be disastrous. Fortunately, the guard didn't spot anything. Once he left, the man reminded his partner to stay sharp next time, then went back to chipping away. After a while, though, he realized the vent grill was held in place by bolts. He'd need another tool to remove them. The next day, on the way to the carpentry shop, he dumped all the dirt he'd scraped loose from his pocket when the guard wasn't looking. Then, inside, he secretly made a wooden wedge, planning to use it to pop out the bolts on either side. But how to get past the metal detector? That was no problem for a man with an IQ of 150. During the guard's inspection, he deliberately showed him one wedge, claiming it was just a hanger for his clothes. The guard confiscated it, but in truth, that was only a decoy. He had another wedge hidden under his shoe. He wedged it against the bolt, then simply kicked it loose. The grill came off with ease. He quickly stuck his head through and saw that the vent led to a maze of pipes. Following them might just lead to freedom, but they weren't there yet. They needed a more thorough plan. First, they had to avoid surprise inspections. If the guards discovered the vent had been opened, they'd be doomed. Second, they had to keep the guards from noticing anything unusual during rounds. The clever man quickly came up with a solution. He'd gather some paint and newspapers, then paint over fake vents and grills to disguise the real work. As for fooling the bed checks, that was even simpler. They could make fake heads out of newspaper and set them on their pillows.